Hey guys, we're the Collinges, and today we are going to share a story about a pretty difficult situation that we had with Estelle's doll.
Do you love your doll? Yeah. Give her a big kissy. Oh, you're so sweet. Oh, you're so sweet. So this story is a little bit hard to share because it involves some of our close family members, but we really feel the message behind the experience is really important, and it really is kind of everything that we're about here.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel, so please hit that button now. And make sure that you stick around for the end of the video when we get to share a really special giveaway with you. When our daughter was born, she surprised us with her Down syndrome diagnosis.
And at that time, we had no idea what our lives would look like.
But we quickly discovered extra needs bring extra joy.
Through the good times and the bad,
In the adventure and the routine,
we're learning to live this life to the fullest.
with a little extra. So we were super excited about this amazing doll that we found for Estelle. She has Down syndrome, and we were super excited because dolls with Down syndrome are not that common. You can't just walk into a store and find a doll with Down syndrome. You have to special order them.
Yeah.
And in the past, some of the dolls that we found were kind of...
They weren't a good representation of somebody with Down syndrome. Definitely. They're a little cartoony.
Totally. And the ones that you could find that were better quality were always really expensive.
Yeah.
So we were kind of waiting for the right time. And then we found this doll from Miniland, and she is just, I think she's so adorable.
She's beautiful.
She is so cute, and she looks a lot like Estelle.
She does, same
with her
hair
coloring and everything. A little bit lighter eyes, and so we were super excited when we found her in stock, and we got her for Christmas.
Yes.
So we gave Estelle this doll on Christmas morning, and she loved her.
She loved her.
She loved her.
She loves dolls and babies in general, and so this was just perfect for her. It was one of the best gifts that she got this year for sure.
I was just really proud of being able to find this doll, and so we were showing some of our family members, and within 5 minutes of Estelle opening the doll, we had a family member make a really harsh remark.
Yeah.
So first she goes, "Oh my gosh, that doll's so creepy," and we totally were just taken aback. And so I didn't know if she really understood that it was Estelle's doll. I didn't really know where she was coming from with that, and so I really quickly was really? I think she's adorable. She's so cute. I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, and then she followed up with, "Oh, well, her face is just really creepy."
Yeah.
I was even more taken aback. And I didn't know what to say, and so I kind of awkwardly was well, she has Down syndrome.
Yeah,
so...
and I kind of stood there too and just seconded what Jill had said of well, you know that she has Down syndrome, right?
Yeah.
And
the conversation got really awkward.
She obviously didn't know the doll had Down syndrome.
She didn't, and I genuinely know that she didn't mean anything bad about it. I know that she didn't have any sort of ill will. It was just one of those situations. It was a real reminder for me that we live in this little bubble of Down syndrome where we see all these people and we see all these differences and we see this doll and we're super excited. Yeah. But really the rest of society that isn't submerged in Down syndrome like we are, they might not see it the same way.
They might not. And I can look at this doll and instantly recognize that she has Down syndrome.
Yeah.
But it doesn't end there.
No. So fast forward a couple weeks, we had another family member come over. Mind you, we hadn't really seen anyone. So this is a couple people within the couple people that we'd seen because of the whole pandemic.
Yeah.
So this time it was a kid, and we were playing with the doll, and again, she just immediately sees her face and she goes, "That doll is creepy." And again,
I'm looking at this doll, and I'm what are they talking about? Look how cute she is.
I'm obsessed with her.
I know. I think she's awesome.
I love her.
She's really cute. Anyway, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's true, though. I'm standing there just shocked and taken aback, and I say, "Oh, well, she has Down syndrome." So she kind of held her ground and was "Well, I don't care. She's creepy." And I mean, she's a little girl. She's young. And so I really don't... Neither of these people do I blame or hold against them in any way whatsoever. But the story is very important because it really, really, really drives home that message that society just doesn't get it the way that we have come to get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of these instances are a great representation of the issue that we feel that exists in society today.
Absolutely.
That issue really at its core is proper representation of people with not only Down syndrome but different abilities in general.
Honestly, I feel grateful that it was just about Estelle's doll.
Yes.
Because I've heard stories, many stories, not just one, not just two, many stories of little kids like on the playground.
Yeah.
Like the same things being said about them.
Yeah.
Like little girls playing on the playground saying, "Oh, that kid is creepy."
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with your face?
Yeah.
So I brace myself because I fear that inevitably that might happen one day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really hard for me to prepare for.
Yeah.
I can't prepare for that.
Yeah.
I'm not prepared for that. And when it happens, I don't know what I'll do.
Yeah.
So I think that drives a lot of our mission too, is like the more that we can advocate and the more that we can share and the more that we can claim a place in society, in the mainstream society, then the less likely it is for that to happen.
Yeah. I feel like with our story and the doll, it's almost as if when those things happened, it feels like the oxygen gets sucked out of your lungs. And that was only a doll.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that happening or the feelings that we'll have if that were, God forbid, ever to happen to us with Estelle.
Yeah, I can't. I would get in trouble probably.
Some kids would go home with
some kids would be getting a talking to, and I'd probably get myself in trouble. But
yeah, for us, having a child with Down syndrome who's a beautiful little girl, we want to do everything that we can to make sure that her face is seen and her face is recognized, and people become comfortable with seeing her. Even if it's on a subconscious level, if people with different abilities are seen on a regular basis and included in society, then we wouldn't run into issues like we've run into this past Christmas.
So for me, this issue really starts in childhood. And I think that's why this story, or these two separate stories about the same reaction, was so powerful to me. But I almost feel like within the child, there's more of an opportunity to like get in there and teach them something different.
Yeah, a little
right?
Opportunity for education. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't think that the adult is like beyond being educated. That's not what I'm saying. But I think I just was more inspired to say, okay, we got to get in, we got to get to these kids, and we have to show them that Down syndrome is beautiful. It's not creepy and it's not weird. We have to get to these kids, right?
Yeah.
So really, I feel that what it brought up for me was kind of the idea of school. Like when we were kids and we were in school, where were the kids with disabilities?
Yeah.
Think about it. When you were in school, where were they? Maybe you were fortunate enough to be in a classroom that was fully included.
You would have had to go to a pretty progressive school, especially for back when we were going to school.
I remember there was a special education classroom, like at all the elementary schools that I went to, but I don't think I would have ever been aware of it if I didn't have a sister who was in those classes.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that I knew it was there and where it was and ever went to that classroom was because of my sister, right? Then in high school, I was recently just thinking about this. Like this whole situation really brought up this image to me of high school. I was remembering like in the auditorium when we would have assemblies, whenever we would walk into the auditorium, like the kids in the special education classrooms were already in there. They were already in there and they were sitting up in like the front rows. And it was never something that I like consciously thought of at the time, but it was when all of this was kind of coming out that just popped in my head. And it really like started to paint this picture for me of where were the kids with like different abilities when we were in school? Where were those kids when we were growing up? They weren't on the playground with us. They weren't sharing our cafeteria tables. They weren't in our classroom. Definitely not in our classrooms.
Yeah, by no means.
I never had a classroom with a kid with like a different need in my class.
Neither did I.
Never. And so where were these kids that had maybe different needs or different abilities? They were separate. They were segregated. They were not included with us, not even just in our classrooms, but in the school setting. Like we had freedom, especially getting into the high school years. We had freedom to like go where we wanted during passing periods and during lunch, and we could talk to our friends. And the school was kind of ours to come and go as we pleased, in between classes and all of that. But like the only time that I would really see the group of kids in the special education classes was like when they were all together.
Yeah.
They were all together being like led by the teacher and the teacher's aides. And they were definitely kept apart from us. They didn't have that same freedom to really be integrated with the rest of us.
Yeah. And
at all.
I would go as far as say, in my experience, they were never even talked about.
Yeah, no.
It was almost as if they just kept them in a closet in the back, out of just necessity.
Yeah, and I did not even think of it.
Yeah.
I genuinely did not even think of it. I never gave them a thought. We didn't have one of those schools where like the kid with Down syndrome was voted prom queen, like that didn't happen. Yeah, nothing like that
happened when we went to school. The only reason I knew, in high school anyway, about the special education class was because I had a coach who was the teacher of that class.
But other than that, they were not part of like our school.
Yeah.
They were separate.
Yeah.
When you saw them, they were in their group and we were in our group. So really thinking about that kind of drove home this idea for me that it's no wonder. It's no wonder that everyone just thinks that's not only acceptable, but like normal. Like that's just the way it is. Because we were really brought up, we were subconsciously trained to see it as different was less, right?
Yeah.
Like different is separate from us. Different doesn't belong in our society.
Yeah, you really didn't have a problem with that class being led in before everybody and sat down. That didn't pose any problem to you.
Nothing. I never even thought about it.
I never really thought about the fact that the special education class was kept so isolated, and we rarely even saw them at any point during my high school time or even before that.
We were really sort of indoctrinated into this idea that there's like segregation, the population of people that are different. It's like it's just normal.
It's systemic exclusion.
That's a really good way of putting it.
It really is
systemic exclusion.
It really is, because it's not something that exists in the natural world. If you strip away the society that we live in and a child is born into, let's say, a small group of like hunter-gatherers or something, a child who is born with Down syndrome, that child's brought up with everyone else in society. We were even told when we had Estelle that there were ancient cultures that viewed people with Down syndrome as mystic, very special individuals. With that in mind, if you do take away that societal systemic exclusion, there's no reason why we shouldn't, as humans, have those people completely included in our society.
I get it, within the school system, there needs to be some there's logistics of it all, right? Yeah. And I get that. So I'm not trying to say that the school system is just terrible. Maybe it was just easier to bring all of the kids into the auditorium first. There was kids in wheelchairs and stuff like that. This is not at all a story about inclusion in the school system whatsoever. This goes to the deeper issue of just inclusion in society.
Yes.
So beyond the school system, I think even in our society, we see this separation of us versus them.
Yeah.
We see a separation of people that are normal and people that are different.
Yeah.
Right? So you might see somebody who has a disability bagging your groceries, and you might think, oh, that's sweet.
That's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah. But we've been trained to think that is we're not expecting much out of that person.
They're an outlier, and how good for that store manager to hire them. Yeah. What a good person.
Yeah, it's a good deed.
Yeah, exactly.
They're doing them a favor.
Yeah.
We aren't trained to expect that person to be able to manage the store.
Be a normal functioning member of society.
Go to college.
Let alone get a doctorate.
Get a real job. Or to do anything of real value. We just kind of have seen them as being sort of a token, right? We don't put expectations on them to be functioning members of society. But what we've come to realize in our experiences, and because I seek out all these accounts of people with Down syndrome and I'm constantly going after all the news, we're seeing amazing things coming out of these individuals.
Truly amazing things.
Just because someone told them, yes, you can.
Yeah.
It's no longer a thing when a child's born with Down syndrome that they take them away, hide them away. Now they're being raised up in an environment that says, you can do whatever you want to do. And guess what? They're doing it.
They're doing it.
They're doing it. And we're seeing oh, wait a minute. the limitations weren't there to begin with. Like, we put them on them.
Yeah.
And so pretty amazing to kind of be part of that right now.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed on social media that's been very hurtful is people using Down syndrome as a derogatory term. They'll use the R word, and then to make their point hit harder or emphasize, they'll say not just, the R word, but Down syndrome R word.
Yeah.
So in doing this, in using Down syndrome as more of an insult, it comes across as extremely ignorant, because in no way does a genetic condition cause somebody to be more severely incapable. It's just so hurtful, because first of all, you shouldn't be using that as an insult in the first place. And second of all, just to try to make your point more heard, you're going to throw Down syndrome out there as if it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
That is proof of people not understanding and not knowing what Down syndrome even is in the first place. And that shows the systemic problem that we have with this abnormality in society. People with Down syndrome are looked at as abnormal. And we're just saying, if they were just looked at as normal, we wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah. There is such a common preconceived idea that Down syndrome equals incapable.
Absolutely.
So when people think Down syndrome, that's what they think.
Yeah.
They think of some like a child. You hear that?
Oh, a child. Yeah.
You hear that a lot. Like oh, they're forever children, and that is not true.
That's not true at all.
That is a really, really just wrong stereotype that needs to be broken.
Absolutely.
The deeper impact is really starting to be seen.
Yeah.
I feel, and I think we are living in the time that's exciting, where inclusion is being fought for by parents like never before. Yeah. And so we're going to see within this next generation, like, what it really looks like when you tear down those walls between us and them. We're really going to see, I feel, it's going to be such a better system.
Yeah.
And so really what we're talking about here is, how do we train up kids to be more inclusive? How do we do that? And I really think it starts with representation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what does representation mean? Let's tell you.
Let's tell you.
So we never really thought about what the word representation meant before we had a child with Down syndrome. Then all of a sudden that becomes like one of those buzzwords.
Absolutely. So for me growing up, I always recognized that there were people with Down syndrome or other different abilities and things like that. I never understood the meaning of representation or advocacy or anything like that. I never understood why that was important.
Yeah. When you have a child with Down syndrome, then all of a sudden you realize, like, hey, wait a minute. There's not a lot of kids with Down syndrome represented in anything. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I do think that we are living in a time when things are changing.
Things are changing.
Things are definitely, you start to see an ad and there's a kid with Down syndrome, and like, we all get super excited. Yeah. Like, the kids will point them out, like, oh my gosh, did you see there was a little girl with Down syndrome? Yeah. They get super happy. They get really excited. I think that more parents are becoming conscious to like purchase toys. So dolls with Down syndrome, dolls of different colors. All the diversity. Diversity matters. It really does.
It matters across the board.
Totally. So you get the books. You fill your library with books that have pictures of different kids that don't just look like your kid, but kids that look like all kinds of kids around the world. So whether that means that the kid's in a wheelchair or has a hearing aid or is a different color than they are. Diversity is so important, and a lot of parents really are catching on to that. I think it's kind of always been around, but it's so much more popular now. Yeah. I feel. Yeah. So one cool opportunity that we've had with having Estelle is when she was less than a year, and I actually had a talent agent that was starting a new diversity division. And because she had Down syndrome, they wanted to sign her to be part of their agency. And we were like, awesome, right? Someone tells you that your baby is cute and they want to sign them, you're just stoked no matter what. But it was especially cool because Estelle has Down syndrome, and it was like this brand new diversity division that they were starting. So we said yes.
Of course.
Right? It was really out of our comfort zone. This whole world of stuff that we weren't in before, we weren't trying to get into, but I really felt pushed to follow that opportunity because we need to see faces of kids with Down syndrome in the media.
Absolutely.
And if Estelle could be part of that, like, that's even better because she's really cute.
Yeah, she is really cute. That's not something that we take so lightly. That's not a decision that was so easily made. I mean, there's a lot of things to think about when you're doing that, when you're putting your child in front of a camera for the world to see. That's something that for us holds a lot of meaning. In the representation that we're talking about.
So true. Because in our hearts we felt like the greater purpose of it all was bigger than us.
Yeah.
As part of our family vlog, it's the same thing. Like, we've opened up our lives to show what our family looks like because we want to show the world what Down syndrome really looks like. We want to be that example that a young kid might have, so that when they grow up and they interact with someone with Down syndrome, they're not afraid. You say, oh, that's like Estelle, right?
Yeah. Oh, that I can be that person's friend.
Yeah. So one thing that was super exciting for us in 2020 when we were watching the Oscars is we saw Zach Gottsagen present with Shia LaBeouf because of the Peanut Butter Falcon. And I was literally like in tears because he was the first person with Down syndrome to ever present at the Oscars. I'm talking ever to ever present at the Oscar stage was him in 2020. And it's just still, it gives me like chills because he was a starring role in this movie.
Tell me how historic that is.
Historic. We all thought he should have been nominated and won for Best Actor, but we're making progress. It was still super exciting to see.
Another awesome thing that happened this last year was Chris Nickick was the first person with Down syndrome to complete an Ironman race. An Ironman race. I wouldn't be able to do that right now. I'd have to train. I feel like I'm pretty physically capable. Yeah. I would have to train a lot.
And he did.
He did
and does. He still does train.
To be an Ironman, you have to. Yeah. And he just blew through the barrier. Blew through the barrier and proved that it doesn't matter that you have an extra chromosome.
It doesn't matter.
You can complete an Ironman if you just commit to it.
That was also a super exciting day for our family because we turned on, there was like the Track This Athlete website. We turned it on in the morning and all day we would kind of check in, where is he? And the kids were blown away, like he's still running. And then they went live with him for the last 2 miles.
2 miles or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
And we were in tears.
We were all crying.
It was awesome.
It was so beautiful. It was just amazingly inspiring to look at him and look at this journey and then look down at our 3-year-old and just be like, she's going to do amazing things and like, no one's going to stop her.
We were literally in tears.
Yeah, I'm almost crying thinking about it right now.
He finished the race in time, too.
Yeah.
There's a cutoff in the Ironman. You're not officially an Ironman if you finish past...
He had it with like 17 minutes to spare or something like that.
Yeah, he finished within time.
Yeah. There's people with Down syndrome in politics. There's people with Down syndrome getting their PhDs. The limits just really don't exist anymore. And we're really seeing people with Down syndrome like break barriers and just accomplish amazing things.
It really harkens back to the point that we made originally about the school system and it's an outdated structure that we're living in society, and it's something that is being proven to be wrong consistently now. And it's something that really we need to look at the roots of the problem that we're having and understand that it's outdated. It shouldn't exist. There's no room for it anymore, and that we need to open up the future of so many individuals who are so capable of doing so many wonderful things.
So when Estelle was really little, maybe a year, we were having dinner with some people really close to us, and the topic of inclusion came up. These are people that work in education, and they very quickly were saying how it's so unfair to the other kids when you have a child included in the mainstream classroom. Another one of those situations where it just kind of like stopped me in my tracks. It shocked me so much I didn't know how to respond. I think because they were people close to us and the conversation started out with like, we're totally going to push for inclusion, and they were like, that's a bad idea. You know, you kind of expect to get pushback from the world, but I didn't expect to get pushback from our close circle.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that these two stories have happened within our close circle has made it harder, because it's not just people who don't know Estelle, it's not just people who don't care about Estelle, but it's really people who do see your daughter, they do see our family, and they can still feel that way. And so it really just like cuts deeper.
Yeah.
What's interesting though, there's never been one study that shows that those kids do any worse.
Yeah.
In fact, when there are any significant findings, it's actually the opposite. You actually see that these kids do better. The kids that are the other kids in the classroom actually do better. It's just like, it's a win for everybody.
Yeah. And this is actual studies that have been done. This is statistics that are actually out there. We would definitely urge anybody watching this to go look up the statistics, because it's absolutely founded in science. The fact that in this conversation specifically, it was just so quickly dismissed as just like, no, that's not what we do. And it was never given another thought.
Yeah, one of them was a teacher and the other one was a para-educator.
Yeah.
So that's what was even more shocking, that it was like, no way. It
was just instantly dismissed.
And what hurt me so bad was Estelle was so little that I was like, how are you preemptively assuming that by the time she gets to kindergarten, she will not be capable of being in a regular classroom? Like, she's so little right now, how can you make that conclusion about 5 years from now? How can you already say she won't be capable? How do you know? Like, how do you know? And it just, it broke my heart, and it just,
That's really the systemic exclusion that we're dealing with. Like we said before, it's really founded in this old idea of having this group excluded and separated from normal society. And what these studies are showing us is that it actually is so much more beneficial for everybody in the society, not just the individual who's got the different abilities, but for everybody around them.
Like, why is the burden all on the child with a different ability to prove that they're worth being part of society? Let's get all utopian for a second. We want to see a world where Estelle is included with everybody else. When she goes to play on the playground, are the kids going to accept her, or are they going to reject her because she's different? When it comes time for the class birthday parties, is she going to get an invitation? Is she going to be invited to hang out with the other kids at recess?
Is she going to have a group of friends in high school?
If she wants to try out for the cheer team, is she going to be given a fair chance? Just in all aspects of life. When she goes to college and she has a roommate, is that roommate going to be okay with knowing that Estelle has Down syndrome? Is that going to be weird? Is that going to be an issue? When she starts working, are her coworkers going to treat her like a person, like a human being? I can definitely say that before Estelle, I would have some nervousness about approaching somebody with Down syndrome.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know, and you're not taught that it's okay to just treat them like a human being. There's kind of a trepidation there. An adult with Down syndrome, you might be talking to their parent. Just out of this weird stuff in our head that we think like they can't answer our questions. Now I know that you talk to them, they're a person, they have their own thoughts, they can answer your questions. A lot of that is what we mean by saying like true inclusion. And it starts with representation. It really starts when a kid is just so little and they're brought up in a world where they see the ads on TV and the books that they're reading and the toys that they're playing with. They see people that are different than them represented in all of that. And they grow up and they don't think it's weird because it's not. It's just so normal for them. So I really think that representation sort of paves the way for true inclusion. That's totally our mission.
Absolutely.
That's our message. That's our mission. That's our heart in advocating and teaching our family to be advocates. Is to promote a society that is accepting. Like truly, that is the heart of everything that we're trying to do here. We want to see a world that is fully inclusive for our daughter. As she grows up, as she starts to make friends and get a job and all of the wonderful things that I know she's going to do, I want nothing more than to just know that the world around her is going to accept her with open arms and really see her as somebody who has a valuable place in society.
Absolutely. Free of stereotypes.
Totally.
My dream really is to have, not only just for Estelle, but anybody out there who has Down syndrome or any other ability, really. My dream is to have, if somebody were to come up to them or make a comment about them, you know, like we have with the doll, oh, their face is creepy or something like that, and then to have another person say, hey, what's your deal? They just have an extra chromosome. They're totally normal and you have no right to make that judgment on them.
everyone kind of stand up for each other.
Yeah.
That'd be the goal, right? That's the goal. That's the goal of life. That's the world peace we're all talking about, is like when everyone stands up for each other. That's all we're talking about.
Yeah,
here.
and
it really is.
We're really coming into a time in society where that's starting to happen, and people are being emboldened to stand up for other people. And I think this is another aspect that we need to shine light on, is the special needs community, is the Down syndrome community, so that can be just another one of those subjects that people can be comfortable with, that's normalized, that somebody can stand up for another person, for an individual.
And know how to do that in a respectable way. I know that we're speaking specifically of Down syndrome a lot, just because that's what we're in. That's the realm that we're in. But this really applies to everybody. It applies to the entire disability community. And it's very important for people with any sort of differences. It's important we as a society become more understanding, become more accepting, and that begins with education. That begins with recognizing this vast divide and truly educating ourselves to become better citizens and better friends and better, well-rounded individuals.
And that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. We really want to be able to spread the knowledge to make Down syndrome just that much more normalized in society, so that we don't have people that think they can use it as an insult.
So we've had people actually reach out to us on social media and thank us for sharing our journey. And when we got to do the Carter's ad, they had put our Instagram on there, and so I had someone contact me and say, I just had this baby, and I opened up the Carter's ad and I saw your family and I saw Estelle, and they were just saying, I can't explain what that meant to me and how hopeful that was. That is why we do what we do. We want to let families know when they get a diagnosis that they don't have to be afraid.
Yeah.
If we can celebrate diversity, not just for people with Down syndrome, but really for everyone, we can help be part of a world that's more inclusive all around. That's our heart.
Yeah. And in a sense, really pay it forward from our experience. If you watch our diagnosis story, we really turned to people who had put themselves out there and shown what life looks like with a child with Down syndrome. That's really where our heart is, because that's where we were. We were that unsure couple who had just got a diagnosis and didn't know what life was going to look like.
Maybe there's an opportunity for somebody who's never going to actually meet somebody with Down syndrome in real life, but they'll get to see one on TV, on YouTube.
Exactly, in the Carter's ad, or...
Yeah, when they're shopping at the store and they have those great big posters, and there could be a kid with Down syndrome. It normalizes it so much that it's not weird for the kid when they grow up and they meet someone with Down syndrome. It's not this creepy, weird, shocking difference. Now they've been systematically shown that different is great. It's fine. It's wonderful, actually. Yeah. So thanks for watching all the way to the end. Now for the exciting giveaway that we promised you. We are super determined to make this a more inclusive world, and one of the ways that we can do that is by sharing some of the resources that we talked about, like those toys and books and dolls. So we are giving away a Miniland doll with Down syndrome. This is the girl version, just like Estelle's. They do have other options available, but we'll be giving away this one over on our Instagram page, so go check that out to enter and win.
And thank you guys so much for joining us. If you like this video, please like it. Also share it.
Yes.
And we would love it if you would subscribe to our channel. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Say bye. Can Dolly say bye?
Is that your baby? Is that your baby? Yeah. You got that baby? Yeah. Do you want to open it? Okay. She's so pretty. Look. Let's open her so you can give her a big hug.
Oh, look at her. She's so sweet. Okay, we'll take that all off, okay? Jessica. That's so sweet, Estelle. Finally. I've been giving you gifts.